Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ringside Cinema. I am Money Mike, and well, here comes the pain again. Brock Lesnar is once again back in the WWE to a very, very mixed reaction. Now, obviously, online crowd, the internet fans versus the live crowd. I gotta say, the internet crowd has taken some major losses this year. And obviously, the crowd there at MetLife Stadium when Brock came back after Cody Rhodes defeated John Cena for the WWE Championship, and they recreated the moment of when Brock made his return to the WWE in 2012. And he came out, he F5 John Cena to end the show. And obviously, there's a lot of legal stuff and him being associated with the Vince case and everything else. And so it's been a very mixed reaction to the return of Brock Lesnar. Uh, for one, I'm not a legal expert or anything, so I don't want to talk about this from the legal standpoint or talk about the lawsuit or anything like that. If you guys want to read the lawsuit, I think it's out there. You can probably Google it and judge for yourself in terms of how you should feel about Brock Lesnar. Again, like I said, with the death passing of Hulk Hogan, I think a lot of people, it's just really up to you on how you feel about it. Because obviously, Hulk Hogan, Terry Bollea, obviously very controversial, but also same thing you could say here. Brock Lesnar, the wrestler, is everyone's excited to see. There's a lot of dream matches out there. And you got Brock Lesnar, Jacob Fatu, Brock Lesnar, Braun Breaker. You got Brock Lesnar, Gunther. You got a lot of dream matches that they could do that will probably excite a lot of people. But there is, if you do read the lawsuit and everything, that's where some things might get a little cloudy. Now, in terms of, I guess, the legal stuff, it was reported that Brock Lesnar was cleared by WWE's legal team, and Michael Cole, I have no idea why. Like, I know kayfabe died a long time ago, and I know, especially now with WWE Unreal on Netflix, they're really open about stuff. But like Michael Cole just outright going, "Oh yeah, I talked to Triple H, I talked to Nick Khan, and they said they were talking to Brock," and like, bruh, save that stuff for WWE Unreal, for documentaries. Like, the idea that Brock came back as a surprise is what we're kind of supposed to be telling the TV audience, right? So why are you saying like stuff like, "Oh, Triple H and Nick Khan told me this"? Oh, they started negotiating a couple weeks ago, blah blah blah. Especially when you have Brock come back, deliver an F5 to John Cena, who, by the way, is not only is a babyface again, but he's in his retirement tour. Like, shouldn't we feel bad that Brock ruined John Cena's moment there at the end where he was there soaking up the crowd and it was his final SummerSlam? And shouldn't we feel bad? Like, shouldn't we feel bad that Brock ruined Cena's moment there? Like, don't tell us like Brock was negotiating with Triple H and everything. Like, no, dude, save that stuff for the documentaries. But apparently, the legal team, WWE, cleared him. Now, I do want to say this. If you guys remember, WWE Slim Jim, they have their partnership. Obviously, now it's expanded to tables. And now you see Slim Jim tables, or Slim Jim being tables being sponsored by Slim Jim, essentially. Now, And at one point, when Vince did come back a couple years ago, Slim Jim was like, hey, we don't want to be a part of this if Vince is going to be back in the company. So Slim Jim kind of left the company. That caused the WWE Con TKO to go, okay, we need to get rid of Vince completely because they lost a sponsor. They lost money. And obviously we know sponsorship within the TKO version of WWE is a pretty big deal. So I would imagine not only did his legal team clear him, but also they had to probably talk to a lot of sponsors and be like, hey, are you okay with this? Because I feel like if even one sponsor said, no, we don't want Brock back, we don't, if you bring him back, we won't sponsor you anymore because they don't want to be associated with the Vince stuff and all that other non craziness with the lawsuit. TKO would have easily been like, okay, we're not bringing Brock back. So I know there's a lot of hatred. I know there's a lot of mixed reaction. I know some people don't like it. They hate the idea of Brock being back because of the association with Vince and the lawsuit. But I definitely feel like if the lawsuit was still going to be an issue. Now, obviously, maybe sponsors didn't know, or some sponsors didn't know, so maybe we might see some stuff come out in the next week or two, or maybe some sponsors try to pull out because, hey, they didn't know Brock was coming back, and, or they still don't want to be associated with Brock, whatever. But I definitely feel like TKO WWE would have pulled out of bringing Lesnar back. Now I don't know if what they would have done at the end of SummerSlam because you had Seth do the cash in on CM Punk on Saturday night. So would they just let Cena just go out on his own, say bye to the crowd, and then like SummerSlam would end on Cena? Or would it have been like Cody and Cena doing like a handshake or, whatever? But like if Brock didn't come back, that does make me wonder what they would have ended on. But again, there's a lot of mixed reaction because there's some people that from the wrestling perspective, they're happy to see Brock back. But then you got the other bit is going to go, well, associated with Vince and, yada, 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 we don't want him back. Well, it's going to be interesting. They didn't have Brock on Monday Night Raw tonight. That's why I was waiting to do this, to do this video on Brock's return, because I wanted to see if they were going to have Brock on Raw, because I figured with it being in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center, I figured, okay, that's a place where they probably want Brock to be. They didn't have him there. So maybe we get to see Brock in Montreal Friday on SmackDown, but I'm going to be curious to see what the live reaction is going to be for Brock. That to me, and I think even for WWE, I think that is going to be the key in terms of all of this. Because, again, the internet crowd this year has been taking massive losses. Like, we don't, they were mad that Jey Uso won the Royal Rumble. They didn't like Jey. I feel like a lot of people were still holding against him for his match with Jimmy last year at WrestleMania. But if you go to any Monday Night Raw, you go to these PLEs, the live crowds are absolutely yeeting. Like they're absolutely eating. The entire freaking arena, whole stadiums are eating with Jey, and it's like, man, there's such a disconnect. And when I was on W2K25 after SummerSlam, after I got home from my friends, where I watched SummerSlam with, I turned on W2K25 and turned it on, And I went to Community Creations, and within a couple hours of his return, a Brock Lesnar creator wrestler was one of the top downloads in Community Creations on WWE 2K25. And there's probably a good chance he'll probably be DLC pre-order bonus for next year's video game 2K26. And you know, because hey, they need money, so I mean, think about all the Persona cards 2K can do now with Brock. But still, it's one of those things where I'm going to be very curious to see what the live crowds are going to react to him, how they're going to react, because everything I've seen is that the live crowds is kind of what the WWE is listening to. They, if you watch WWE Unreal, I will talk about the original WrestleMania card later this week versus what we got. So go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button, as I do produce weekly wrestling content here on this channel. But I will be talking about WWE Unreal, the original WrestleMania card, versus what we got, and coming from someone who spent a lot of money to go to WrestleMania this year, I have some thoughts on the original card. But with WWE Unreal, they talked about Jay, and they're going over who's going to win the Royal Rumble. Well, originally it felt like to me they were going to have CM Punk win the Royal Rumble. And this is a little spoiler if you haven't seen it yet, but the original plan was CM Punk versus Gunther for the world title. But because of Jay's building momentum, his popularity, Triple H, or not Triple H, one of the writers or someone was like, hey, what about Jay? And they switched it up to Jay and gave Jay the Rumble win, and it was like this big thing of like taking advantage of something where a wrestler got hot, and they said they just rolled with it, right? So I'm curious to see how the live crowd is going to react to Brock Lesnar. And, obviously New York being a smart crowd, I think that would have been a good test for them in Brooklyn if they would have had Brock show up there. John Cena will be on SmackDown this week, so I imagine he'll address it. Makes me wonder, are we getting John Cena versus Brock Lesnar at Clash in Paris? I mean, that would be a pretty big deal if we were to get Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Clash in Paris. I mean, that's going to be pretty crazy. But again, to me, ultimately, how you want to feel about Brock coming back is your choice. So go ahead and leave a comment below. Are you happy to see him back? Do you think that WWE made the right call to bring him back? Because to me, I don't even know if they even needed him. Because you look at what they're doing without Brock Lesnar. There was a report earlier today that they're talking about making more two-night events. The Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, Money in the Bank. We're going to have more two-night events. And they've been able to do all this and sell out all these arenas all around the United States, Canada, internationally, all without Brock Lesnar. So did they really need Brock? They're doing a pretty good job building up new talent as it is. And so it really makes me wonder, did they really need Brock? That to me is, where does he fit in? Yeah, there's a lot of dream matches he could have, but where does he fit in with this new era? I don't know. Comment below, guys. I don't want this video to be too long. I got more content to make for the channel this week. So go ahead, drop your thoughts below. What do you guys think of Brock Lesnar returning to SummerSlam? F5 and John Cena. Are we going to see Lesnar, Cena at Clash in Paris? Or is that going to be maybe a Survivor Series? Comment below, guys. I've been your host, Money Mike, and you've been watching Ringside Cinema.